Welcome everybody to this edition of Beers with Bill. It's my great pleasure to welcome back Lager Dave, Elora Brewing's you're head of brewing now, aren't you? Brewing operations.
Yeah, head of brewing operations.
So welcome back, Dave.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always great to be here.
Yeah, it's always a lot of fun. So which beer did you want to start out talking about first?
I think starting with the Three Fields lager is a good start. It's kind of our easiest drinking lager that we have as a core. Get into the Pilsner after. Yeah, we want this beer just to be kind of approachable by everyone. We have a lot of at the brewery and restaurant, we get a lot of tourists, and we get a lot of the regulars who just kind of want like a beer that tastes like beer. There's nothing fancy about it. Just kind of just make a quality lager with this. We're using all mostly like local ingredients with this one. We're using malt out of Alberta from Gambrinus Malting. They're Pilsner and Vienna malts, we really like those malts. And then the hops kind of rotate around a bit. What's available, we try to use whatever noble hops we can get that are grown locally. But a certain time of the year, we've used up all the ones, Sterling that's growing up the road in Fergus from us. So we the hops change around, but it's not really about the hops. The hops are just kind of balancing it out a bit. So yeah, so it's 4.5%. And yeah, I've been drinking a lot more of this one after drinking Pilsner for a lot of the summer, which is a bit more bitterness. I've been coming to this one for just kind of just nice and smooth and easy drinking. And yeah, I would say those Gambrinus malts kind of like make this beer stand out versus other lagers, or like house lagers or kind of core lagers around. And I really like the character it brings. Nice, really good fullness and balance.
So have they changed the recipe in the last year or two? You're still producing it pretty well the same way.
So I changed the recipe when I started at the brewery. There was everyone approaches recipes differently, right? And it kind of needed a bit of a change. They were looking to change it up as well. And then that's when I had used Gambrinus malt a couple times. And the price of it is actually it's like fairly sustainable too. It's not like importing a malt from Germany or something like that. And so it's called Three Fields because it does have three grains in it: barley, wheat, and rye. And so some of the changes we do with less of those protein malts, so the wheat, the rye in it, just a kind of a bit to kind of add to the body, but not dominate it. Because again, we're going for that, just kind of like that approachable lager that will appeal to the masses, but still, again, have the full body and all that. And then, yeah, just I think some other natural kind of changes came with it. So this would have been, I guess, about almost 3 years ago when I started.
Okay. I think that was the roundabout way that I was asking. That you changed it when you started.
Yeah, and then so we're always tinkering with things, but it has stayed the same since then.
Yep. And you don't do anything special with the water on the lager?
Bit of calcium chloride to it. Our water is really quite hard and has a lot of sulfite in it, and sulfite dries out beers. It's quite high, higher than you'd expect. Like when you read about when you read the water books and all that, they say it is quite high, but it also kind of brings out like this nice character to it. So we just kind of balance it out with a bit of chloride to make it so it's not not so sharp, because a lot of chloride on its own is sharp. So we kind of add some chloride to still keep it dry, but to kind of just soften it a touch. And our water would be similar to the water of Dortmunder, Germany, where the Dortmunder comes from, or Dortmund as a city. And but I think after experimenting with like soft and hard water over the years, I would say that hard water is often desired in beers. When we were experimenting with the Wellington Helles lager, we had the opportunity to brew with really soft water, and we did, but people liked it more when it had a bit more hardness to it. Kind of fills out the flavor and whatnot. So I've kind of come back around. Some beers need it, like the next beer we're going to drink. You kind of need that softness, but we haven't been shying away from, sometimes we'll bring in distilled water or something like that to brew a beer, but haven't been doing that as much. Just kind of working with what we have lately.
I say that's not inexpensive to bring in a load of water.
No, it adds up, and I mean some recipes, some brews just need it. Like the next one we're gonna drink, but we can do a lot with what we got too.
Yep. So how are you guys managing with all the cost increases over the past 24 months?
Yeah, I think it has been reflected a bit in the beer price, and not a ton. They haven't I don't think the beer cost is actually. I don't think we've increased it as much as some of the inflation we've seen with ingredient costs, or not even just inflation, but like there's been obviously just like full on shortages with some malt, and it sounds like this year is maybe a bit of a rough year for hops in Europe with all the heat and all that. So there's always gonna be that. Not like in the grand scheme of things, when you look at malt or something like that, you buy a lot of it, you pay a lot for it, but when you look at a liter of beer, it's not like gonna it's not going to tip it over its edge, because there's a lot of there's the 4 ingredients that went into that beer, but then there's also all the utilities and rent and vehicles on the road and all that stuff too, right? So some things obviously have gone up more than others, but some things are kind of a bit more of a constant, stable.
So you guys are weathering it okay.
Yeah, I mean, right now, like I don't know of anyone who's just killing it. Like it's a struggle to start with, right, in the industry. But yeah, we're doing okay. And the restaurant, we have the restaurant, right, which is great. Like it kind of it drives a lot of sales for us. And
yeah, you can see that. What's the most innovative beer that you've done in the last 12 months?
Oh, innovative. Yeah, we haven't. What have we done in the last 12 months? I guess this past winter we did a collaboration brew that we've been trying to kind of get going in Elora. We called it it started off as like the makers of Elora. So we teamed up with this is a while back now. We teamed up with coffee roasters and the distillery, and the bread company. So Elora Bread, Elora Distilling, Elora Cafe, and Elora Brewing, and we wanted to see what we could do. So the distillery aged some coffee beans in what barrel was it in? A rum barrel, I believe. And then we took that coffee and made it turn into a stout. We did like a imperial nitro stout with it. I don't know. Did we ever have that one on the show, or maybe?
I don't know. I didn't look at the list of what we had the last time.
Yeah, we might have even had that one before on the show. And that was cool. It was just like I like that kind of concept of and then the bakery was supposed to make bread with spent grain, but then the bakery had a fire and they were closed down for a better part of a year, so it didn't work out. But I think I'd like to get that going again this year. And what else have we done? My memories not the best these days.
What's been the most interesting change over the last 2 years for you?
Interesting change. Yeah. It's a good question. Yeah. The past 2 years. It's funny getting used to not doing anything for a while there, right?
Yeah.
Not leaving the house. And yeah, so I think like kind of just getting, it's surprising how long it's taken to kind of get back into like any kind of normal routine. I also have two young kids, which is kind of like, that uh takes a lot of time too, right? But yeah, just kind of trying to get back to some kind of a normal existence, right? And going out and feeling good about it and that stuff. And yeah, so I think going to concerts, that's made me feel, again, like um that's been one of the best things that's kind of brought me back to feeling normal again. um but yeah, with 2 years, that's a blur.
It is in a lot of ways, Dave. It certainly is. So that's intriguing. So you're saying sort of normalize your life by going out to concerts finally, and that would be a big step for anybody.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I know the one concert I was supposed to go to, I ended up not going, and I was glad I didn't, because pretty well everybody who went to it came down with COVID.
Oh no.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
one of those like, wow, okay, I'm glad I didn't go that time.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt.
What's the biggest thing that you're tackling right now?
Like at the brewery, or like,
Well, I'll leave it to
or
you
the
because
demons in my head, or
well, with a young family, I'm sure there's lots of things that you are tackling.
yeah, well, I guess like something that's interesting that's happened to me lately, which is so yeah, two young kids, 2 and 4, and I feel like we've been sick even all summer. Just the things opening back up again, like we were kind of talking about before this started. Well, just whatever, if it for so long, and it's starting to get pretty draining and pretty wearing, because all of a sudden kids can't go to daycare or school, so you got to stay home, and you're sick, and then the wife is sick. It just kind of bounced around for a long time. And it was kind of like getting to a point like, okay, like something's got to give here. And then I got COVID. That was the first time I got it, and it really kicked my ass, a lot more than I thought it would. And I was down for probably 10 days, but it was the best thing that happened to me, I think, is kind of like hitting rock bottom, as I was just like, okay, I need to like stop and start taking care of myself. And I've come back from it just like better than I was before, I feel like. So that's been something that's that I've kind of went through, and to do all kinds of things, beer and music. I've been playing music again, and just kind of making that time for me again.
So are you saying that you're back playing music again?
Well, I've started writing, and like so I'd like to eventually, I want to eventually get playing out again, but I want to construct some songs first, and I'm teaching myself how to record too. So do a bit of recording, and man, just see what happens. I'm not going to try to do anything. It's just for myself, and part of that self-care that I need to bring back into my life.
Well, yeah, it's good to have a hobby and focus on something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something you were probably doing as a teenager, and then as you get into the work world and have a family, you stop those things.
Yeah.
So maybe after the show, you'll play us a couple tunes.
Sure. Yeah. If anyone wants to listen.
Yeah. So we're gonna do the Pilsner next, right?
Yeah. Pull that one out. I told my wife to come down and drink these all these half beers I'm leaving out here.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is our. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, my son usually is here and he gets them. I had to pour a little bit and he gets the rest, but he's either got the flu or he hasn't tested positive for COVID yet, but
Yeah.
his coworker was sick the other day, and so now he's got it.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
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 So he's at home.
Yeah. I think the best thing was the other day we saw kind of someone we knew at the park, friend of a friend kind of thing, and they have kids exactly the same age as ours, and we just looked at them and they're like, how are you? And they're just, and then you get to see it in their eyes, they're like, not good. I'm just like, we were like, we've been there, we know, we feel you.
Yep.
Yeah, this is our Pilsner. So this was our summer seasonal at the LCBO, and it's a Czech style Pilsner. So this is like a beer style, like the beer style that you got to kind of brew with soft water, because the whole point is you load a ton of hops and a ton of Saaz. And the soft water produces a softer beer versus a hard water will produce a more bitter and a drier beer, where this beer is kind of supposed to be a bit more full and have a body, but low bitterness, even though it has more hops than say a German Pilsner would. And that's all because of the water. Because in Pilsen, where the Pilsner originated, they have like some of the softest brewing water. So yeah, we've had this one out, and it was been the LCBO all summer, and we're just gonna get into the tail end of its season. But yeah, we've all kind of really enjoyed this beer and having it around for the summer.
It's kind of your go-to beer after a hot day in the brewery.
Yeah, and like I said, like the bitterness is like great. It's perfect on this hot day, so it's nice with all this weather we've been having. Because yeah, I find when the cold weather comes in, I kind of want a little less bitterness and a little more kind of body or malt to the beer.
Yep. So I have to ask, you've done a number of interviews. Is there any question you wish people would ask you that people have not asked you?
Oh, geez. No, I like your questions that you ask. I've done a couple of other little things, but yeah, I like the real life questions like you're asking, right? Because it's yeah, because I mean, beer's great, but I mean, sometimes it's hard to, sometimes it's nice when I think the point of a good beer is to like induce conversation, and not necessarily about that beer. Beer is supposed to is a social thing, right? So
Yeah.
that's why I've always just kind of gone to like well balanced, easy drinking, a lot of lagers and stuff like that, because it's just kind of, you're not talking about which hop is in it. You're talking about something, some local gossip or something.
What is the local gossip in Elora right now?
Oh geez, I don't keep up with it. I'm kind of out of just into the brewery, and then I don't stick around town too often.
Yes, it's a small place. There's all kinds of gossip. What can
Oh
we
yeah,
say?
I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So, what's the best advice you ever chose to ignore?
The best advice I chose to ignore.
Yeah, so someone said you should do this, and you were just like, yeah, okay, and walked away and didn't do it.
Oh geez, I didn't do it. Oh man, that's a tough one.
Okay, well then we'll just ask you for the best advice you were ever given.
Best advice I was ever given. Okay. Yeah, I think like to me, it's just like when we have people encouraging you to kind of tell you to do whatever that thing is that you want to do. Maybe it sounds a bit cliche, but that's kind of how I've been feeling lately after going through all this illness. Is yeah, you just do the things that you want to do. Stop worrying about what other people are thinking or whatnot. Because I've done that. I'm sure we all have to some degree. It's kind of, you let other people's opinions kind of get in your way, but I think just doing what I'm going to do because I'm me, and that's what makes me unique. So I think about that a lot when I'm songwriting. Like I'm trying not to. I've been through a period of trying to write songs that other people will like. Well, I don't care anymore. I'm going to write songs that I like, and just kind of, so just kind of that whole thing of just believing in yourself because that's as good as it's going to get.
Sage advice. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Has your risk tolerance changed because of COVID?
How so? Like, what do you?
Well, let's start with brewing beer.
We've kind of went through this progression with brewing beer where we've kind of just realized that what we do well and what our customers like to drink. And so we've kind of like been sticking a bit to that. Like we haven't been like doing anything too crazy. We do have some wild fermented stuff on the go now, in barrels and whatnot. But for like most of our beers, like we like to brew and drink lagers, pale ales, IPAs, sour beers. We have a big crowd for sour beers, like fruited kettle sours, and then a little bit of seasonal swing. So like right now, some darker beers. We just released a stout, and just kind of zeroing in on those things. We just packaged on Monday a Kveik pale ale. I wish it was ready for this because it turned out incredible. But yeah, so we've throughout this we've kind of just like looked inward and been like, what do we need to do? Like, what do we need to do for ourselves? And because we went back and forth for a while, they're pushing each other, been like, oh, we should do something like this or like that. And like, well, look at the numbers, look what we sell. Look at you come in on the weekend and I see kegs of Three Fields and kegs of Borealis pale ale and kegs of whatever other lagers and IPAs we have on tap. And then all the other one-offs we do, there might be one here and there, but just the sheer volume that we go through of those beers kind of has told us, helped us realize what we should be doing.
Okay. And that brings to mind another question. The last time we chatted, one of the struggles was trying to sort of balance how many kegs do you do versus how many cans do you do? Have your licensees moved back more towards kegs now?
It's still been all over the place. Because in the early summer when things started getting going again, we couldn't keep up with the kegs. And so I just kept making more kegs. And then that kind of dropped off a bit. It seemed like people were just like eager to get out into the restaurant and they're excited to get out. So they'll have a couple extra beers at dinner or whatever. And so we just blew through the keg beer and couldn't keep up with it. So we produced more kegs and then that's kind of died off. So now we're kind of like struggling to get through the kegs. I think it seems like it's kind of going back to like normal times, because it obviously when things are closed, you wouldn't sell anything, right? So that was funny catching up with that. That's been a process of figuring out what that split is and how it changes, because I've seen it pretty quickly go from 60-40 kegs over cans, like out of our front of house, to and flip to the opposite. because then I feel like after everyone was only buying cans for a long time, then they were saving that money and going out and drinking those beers on draft and then not taking any cans to go. And then now it's kind of flipped back again, more cans again. So it's hard to keep up with it. I don't know how you can really predict it, that when things change like that.
No, I can imagine that's not an easy a thing to predict. So, how about people buying kegs for like home consumption? Has that become a thing, or is that petered off?
Elora's never really done that. Like we did that a lot at Wellington, but we've never really done a lot of that at Elora. And it's something we keep talking about. Should we do it or not? And it's just kind of like keeping track of kegs and stuff like that can be tricky.
That's true. Can always be fun that way.
Yeah.
How are you allocating your resources right now?
What do you mean exactly?
Your time, where you're investing your money, where you're investing your future planning.
Yeah. The time, I've been trying to have a nice split between the family and work. Find that balance is tricky. I find, so I'm trying to been trying to work like a day or two from home, because I can do a lot of my work is computer work, right? Excuse me. And then we've been, obviously you get to that point where we're just like, okay, we gotta like figure out our what we're doing with our life here and make sure we can retire one day, because especially I like making beer. I don't want to be making beer when I'm 80 years old, right? I don't want to be drinking someone else's beer at that point.
You don't want to be professor emeritus of the beer industry?
Yeah, I don't know. I like to go to the cottage and put my feet up too.
Yeah. Did you manage to do that this summer at all?
Yeah, we got away for a couple of weeks, but I think that's when the illness started too. And so a couple of times I think we came home, didn't go, or we came home early because of illness though.
I hear you on that. David's curious how things are with the sales staff, and I didn't realize this, that after Jenna left.
Yeah, so excuse me. Things have changed a bit. So all of like Jenna's crew is still there. They hired one new guy, Sam, who was at Wellington, and Sam's great. And then it's still sorry, I just gotta tickle my throat here. And then it's we have Darcy in like the Cambridge, Tri-Cities area, and Zed in Toronto, and just out east of Toronto. And so those guys are doing good. And sorry. They've been doing some cool stuff. It just kind of like trading their strengths. When one has good at the LCBO, is another person is good at getting licensee sales. So just kind of like trading those tricks and whatnot. But it was Jenna leaving was pretty huge. She'd been kind of with the company from the very start. But also she found a great opportunity and she was ready for a new challenge too. So I think it's good. It was a good move for her.
What's the next beer we're going to try?
Let's do Borealis. So we just won a nice award with Borealis. This is our flagship and our number one seller. And so we won a gold medal at the Canada Beer Cup on Sunday. which is pretty huge for us. It's a good award to win for, and especially for our pale ale, and which is our flagship beer, and it's also, it's one of the. I feel like it's one of the stiffer competitions. I feel like pale ale IPA, there's a lot of entries for, because it's a lot of people's mainstays, and as well as a lot of the lager categories too. Those are always ones that I kind of keep my eye on. So winning this one for a flagship was great.
Oh, congratulations. You're right. What a fantastic win.
Yeah, thanks.
And I like Borealis from the first time we ever had it at kickoff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and it's been cool. It's like we brew this beer the most out of any beer. We're brewing 4,000 to 6,000 liters of it every 2 weeks. And it is like really one of our most consistent beers, we find too. Just it's Citra and Galaxy hops, as well as we do use a bit of local. I think in this one we're using a bit of Heiho Chinook in it as well. And it's just kind of great. Obviously very hop forward, but then it still has a good body to it, and wheat notes in there to kind of create that kind of fluffy, creamy body. And then I think also our hard water goes a long way in this beer. Hard water can really accentuate hop flavor. So it's kind of just a winning combo. And so we kind of got this beer to a good spot and haven't really changed it. Keep the process the same, and yeah, we've been really happy with it.
are you sourcing your hops from like the same farm every year, or do you just source them wherever you can get them?
We haven't been doing like a particular farm. We kind of work with our supplier, and then we've done this with like the Galaxy. We liked a certain crop that we found with them, and then they could secure us that one crop.
Okay.
Instead of kind of picking, or randomly getting from whatever it is, 3 or 4 different farms or whatever. We just got we just got new Citra in it. We just dropped our first Borealis with the new crop of Citra, and that's the biggest change you'll see in those beers is the hop. When the new crop starts with the hops, you see a lot of beers brighten up, and the flavors can change a little bit too, because every crop is a little bit different. But yeah, we've been super happy with that especially that Citra Galaxy combo is just kind of, my favorite hops for an IPA, I'd say, or a pale ale.
Do you have to play with the percentages when you get the new crop in, or do you just go with what you're usually doing?
Percentages as in like
how much of each hop do you put into a batch?
Not really. It's pretty close on with those 2 hops anyways. We pretty much like use equal parts throughout the process. And we're pretty much, other than in the hot side, like on the end of the boil, the whirlpool, we when we're dry hopping, we only use full bags of hops. The hops kind of oxidize as soon as they're kind of opened, right? So
yeah,
we try not to use any open bags, and so which means we're increasing our amounts in increments of 5 kilos. So it's usually a set, whatever it is, 4 bags of each or whatever for the dry hop. And
yeah. So can you share with us what's coming on down the road at Elora Brewing?
Yeah. So like I just said, we just packaged a Kvike Pale Ale, which will be out. I'm not sure if it's gonna be out next week or the week after. We're still playing catch up with our keg inventory, so to get things on tap right now, because we have too many brands. We're just kind of like getting through a couple, so that'll come out really soon. Like I said, we just released a stout, which I think it's probably our best stout that we've made. It's just like an incredible full body, great balance, just enough roast. So really stoked on that. And then down the pipe, we just did a collab with Dominion City. They came by the other week. I was away with COVID, but they came by for a collab, and we brewed a lower ABV Franconian, so like a German lager. So that a beer will be good. Would be good. It's just a small batch, just like a 10 hect batch, but that should be. I'm excited for that beer to come out. And then we have our Wandering Monk, which is a Belgian IPA that we do every year, kind of right before Christmas. It's a higher ABV. It's like an 8%. It's 8% beer, and it's pretty wicked beer. We got a lot of our regulars that come in with their mugs from the Mug Club, and some of those mugs are, I don't know if I should be saying this, but they're quite large, right? And you see them drinking 2 or 3 pints of this, just like, man, you just drank like 60 ounces of 8% beer, like.
Oh, he's a local. He walked there. Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you walk. Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's like going up for dinner and drinking a bottle of wine. But yeah, then we got some cool plans coming for the new year. We're gonna maybe experiment with. This is actually thinking kind of far in advance. With a pills pack for the LCBO for next Christmas, but we may try to mock it up in February and just kind of. I don't like just like doing a recipe for the first time and that beer goes to the LCBO kind of thing. It's kind of, you can always make little changes and always make little improvements. So we might kind of do some small batches of that in February of each of those. So look out for some bunch of like super small batch lagers from us then. And yeah, those are the kind of exciting things that I'm looking forward to.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. What's the smallest batch you can do?
We're going to start playing around with that a bit more because we want to there's some opportunity to kind of do more, smaller volume batches. But maybe 600 to 800 liters would kind of be maybe 600-700 liters. The thing is, like, we have big tanks too. So like if we're fermenting in a tank that has, we have to hit the temperature probe on it. We have to brew enough beer to kind of, to register the cooling system on it. Right. And then with that, like, sure, it's a smaller batch and you've used less ingredients, but some things you still have to use the same amount of. You still have to use the same amount of chemicals to clean a 4,000 liter tank, right? And you still have the bright tank, we still have to purge that 4,000 liter tank with the same amount of CO2 and all that. So there's a degree where it doesn't make sense to do too small batches, because some of those costs, like the price per liter, kind of just goes way up at that point then too.
Oh, I'm sure it does.
Yeah,
I'm sure it does. I was just curious, that's all.
Yeah. So a lot of our one-offs will do about 1,500 hectoliters.
Yeah.
And yeah.
What's next for Dave?
Yeah, just gonna keep on playing and writing some music for now, and hopefully getting outside, because we're supposed, when I got sick, we had a whole northern trip planned to go up north for Thanksgiving and all that, and be out in nature and chop some wood and all that stuff, and that never happened. So getting out in nature a bit as well, and this is my favorite time of year with the leaves and all that. So just getting outside a bit more, and then getting playing some more music.
Yeah, there's something cathartic about chopping wood, isn't there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is exactly, but it's just kind of, you feel good after it, right?
Yep. You have to focus on just doing that.
Yeah.
And you just zone out everything else.
Yeah, exactly.
So I appreciate it. I'm sorry you missed having that chance to go up north and do that. No, because I know how much you enjoy going up to the cottage. Because of course I troll you on Facebook, eh?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, it was so disappointing, but at the same time, we're just kind of like, okay, well, let's take the best out of this,
Yeah.
and so we're already planning our trip for next fall. We're gonna take more vacation in the fall just to get up there for it. So
What we- what are you reading right now?
I haven't actually been reading anything for a little while. I was just looking into getting a book about mushrooms by a fellow named Paul Stamets, who I've been kind of listening to some of the podcasts by him and stuff like that, and making some really cool discoveries with mushrooms and some of their beneficial well they just kind of wide ranging what kind of benefits they can do to nature and in our bodies and such like that. So I think I'm going to get a book by him, but I haven't read anything for a little while. Kind of got out of it there.
I thought for sure you would pull out a tome on water or something and go, I'm reading this right now.
I can't do that anymore. I did that for a while, and my wife would always make fun of me for she'd be reading some, some acclaimed novel in bed, and then I'd be have a book about malt or something like that. But I haven't been able to do that for a while. I find it kind of some of that stuff gets a bit dry,
That's true, it is.
and you
Sure.
can't teach an old dog new tricks, right? Like,
You can talk about being an old dog when you get to my age, okay?
all right, yeah.
Could you share with us your funniest beer story?
Oh, jeez. Beer story. Funniest beer story. Yeah, maybe I don't know if there's a couple. One, I was back when I was working at Wellington. Every time I see my buddy Darian, I make sure to remind him of this story. So I worked with a fellow named Darian. He worked at Block 3 for a bit, and then he worked at Wellington for a bit. Now he's a sales rep at BSG, Brewer Supply Group, and he's a great guy. And I was working with him. I was on the brew house at Welly, and it was I was in the brew house. He was in the cellar. It was later at night. It was probably around 10 at night or something like that. So it was just us there. And I noticed I got a call coming in from him. And I'm like, damn, why is he calling me? He could just walk over and talk to me. And I pick up the phone. Hello. He's like, Dave, come help me right now. Come help me right now. So I run over, and he had a ladder set up on a tank. And then the ladder failed on him somehow. And he was standing on the cooling jacket of the tank, which is about this, maybe an inch and a half or 2 inch, it kind of stuck out. So he was just glued to the tank like this. He's like, help me, man. So I set up the ladder and got him down, but he was in a tight spot. Oh man, that was pretty funny. And another time at Welly, I was on the brew deck. This is the old system, and somebody runs over and they're like, oh yeah, your partner Jared needs you, because again I was brewing, he was on cellaring. And I said, okay, well, yeah, we'll tell him like I'll be there in like 5 minutes. I got to finish up something. And they were like, no, like he needs you right now. And so he was over standing at the bottom of the tank. I couldn't see what he was doing, but on the bottom of the tank, it comes down to a cone. And then you have tri-clamp to that cone a valve. That's, when the tank's full, the valve is closed. And then you hook a hose onto the bottom of that valve to, again, tri-clamp when you're processing or moving the beer. And he just filled the tank, and instead of removing the hose clamp, he removed the valve clamp above it. And so he was standing there with, I don't even know, 6,000 liters of beer, and the weight of his hands just trying to hold the valve to the tank, and it was spraying him in the face. And I took a second, I just laughed about it. I'm like, okay, well, there's only one way to fix this, and that's to open the valve and let the beer flow out. But then at least you have control. The valves open, the beer's flowing, you put the clamp back on and then close the valve. But I kind of I've been meaning to make that like a or part of orientation or something like that for brewing. Just like fix this, because you have to do it once in a while. You
Yes,
never know.
people do make those mistakes.
Yeah. And a beer shower is never as it's not as fun as it sounds, because a beer really burns your eyes.
Yeah. What's the last beer we're going to talk about, Dave?
Yeah, we have our Lady Friend IPA, which is it is our core IPA. We've kind of went back with it. The brewery started with it, and then around the time I started, we kind of pushed Shine a bit more. We didn't have enough where we were tank set up. It's hard to keep too many regular beers around always. So it kind of took a little bit of a break, but then people just wanted it back, and they demanded that we bring it back. So we brought it back, and and it's here to stay. Just in the whole haze craze, we're like, okay, could we like sell some more? Do people want this hazy beer? But this beer has always done us well. So, and this is the beer we've changed the most. Actually, I'm excited to drink this one, because we've put the most work into this beer, because it was kind of had a confused identity for a little while. I think originally the beer was a bit of more of an English IPA, and even so, we're talking 6 or 7 years ago, which kind of made sense back then. And the beer tastes have evolved so fast in craft beer, right? I think after that it kind of became more West Coast, and then the beer was kind of turning into a hazy East Coast beer when I had started there. And we're like, okay, well, we need to, especially with like Shine, we need to figure this out. Like, where does this beer stand? Not that it needs to be an exact style, but it needs some kind of bit more of an identity. So we've played around this one quite a bit, but I think these last couple batches I think we've found it in these last couple batches. Added a bit more wheat to it than we had in it, and that's kind of just softened it a bit, gave it some body, but it's still not like the oats like in the Borealis, where it's like super hazy. We wanted it to be, not clear and not hazy, kind of like just in the middle of the road. So I was interested to see how. I've been meaning to have one of these. I haven't had one since before I got sick, so I'm interested to see where it's at. And a little bit more kind of like crystal malts in this one to promote the solid body, and a touch of sweetness to balance out the extra bitterness that we do with this beer. So example, the Borealis doesn't have any bittering hops, just kind of finishing like whirlpool hops, and then two dry hops. But this beer, we put a decent amount of bittering hops in it, just to kind of give it a bit more punch. And then with the extra alcohol, it kind of can take it and balance it out too. Again, we still do a big whirlpool dry hop and heavy whirlpool and dry hop on it as well. Yeah, so we're kind of going like not clear, but not crazy hazy, just kind of a nice, a nice kind of nice color to it. And this one we're using locally grown Cascade. So Dino is our hop grower up in Fergus there, and he's a great guy. We've become really good friends, and he's one of my favorite people to have a beer and chat with. And he's a Aussie guy, and he's been growing hops for I don't even know how many years, since before I've been there. And he's a local locksmith in town. So we're using his Cascade in this beer, as well as Mosaic and Simcoe in this one. So quite a bit different profile than the Borealis. It's maybe a bit drier, and but the hops come through nice, and it's kind of what it's all about. And just I saw someone said that they used to drink it at Bauer Kitchen there, and I think that was one of the first places I had it too. I remember having it on tap there, and so although the beers change, I think it's maybe kind of maybe come not a full circle, but kind of come around a bit. We've taken it back a bit to kind of just wanted just like a nice, nice approachable IPA.
Do you bring in any of the new and experimental hops sometimes to brew beer?
Yeah, so we haven't done one in a while. We have kind of had a series of different like IPAs coming out that we would just try new hops on. But we just got in maybe like 20 kilograms of Nectaron, which is kind of like this hop that's people have been buzzing about. They just say the flavors are just kind of like an explosion of kind of tropical fruit flavors. So I'm excited to try those ones. We don't have an exact plan with it at this point, I don't think, but we got those on deck for the next kind of big, I see it going into like a juicy New England IPA or pale ale or something like that. But we've played around with what was it, the HBC 630 and some of these other kind of new hops. But at the end of the day, sometimes I would have picked the beer of like the old faithful hops, there's a reason, Citra and Mosaic and Galaxy and Simcoe, all these hops are so well known just because they do the job, right? So it's hard to find. It can be on a one-off IPA. It can be hard to find the right balance with hops, with what hops to use and stuff like that. And sometimes it's great when it works out, but when it doesn't, you might have like 1,000 liters of beer that wasn't what you imagined how it would have turned out. But
yeah, I hear that. What do you see that's new and exciting happening in the craft beer industry right now?
I think I've started noticing, and I was hoping this is going to happen, is people kind of just focusing in on getting or just on quality. I feel like we had a number of years there where we were just kind of brewing everything and just kind of maybe too much, and there was a lot of, maybe I shouldn't say a lot, but there was enough kind of like bad beer out there, and I think a lot of brewers we were just trying to do too much all at once. Kind of the opposite of the steam whistle slogan is do one thing really, really well, is do everything kind of half-assed. So I feel like I've seen, not necessarily, I don't know if it's just cores, people focus on cores, but not necessarily just cores, but like more like seasonal beers you bring back every year. And then that's when you can really dial in recipes in your process and stuff like that. And I shouldn't, like, some people are great at like just brewing a different beer every week. But I've noticed in the beers when I've gone out recently that I've just like haven't found that bad, or beer, I see it feels like it was rushed or something like that in a while, and just I've been happy with every. So don't go at a ton, but I made it to Farm League a couple weeks ago, and their beers were great. I made it. We just did a collab up in Collingwood there at Black Bellows, and their beers were all great. And I've just been really happy with everything I've come across lately. Had some of Marvin's beers up at Newstead there, and he's making good beer. I just saw him last night actually at beer dinner with Charles McLean. And yeah,
What's it like having dinner with Charles?
Yeah, I like Charles. He's an interesting guy. He's always got some pretty funny stories about the industry. Um, it just like yeah, just like because he's doing it for so long. It was a different world back then when he started in the beer world, right? So yeah, he's always I always enjoy those dinners. I don't know if you ever have the chance to get up to one. They're nice. They're a lot of fun.
Derek's curious if McLean's is still going as a brewery.
Oh yeah. McLean's is. I mean, I don't know how they're doing, but they seem to be going strong. Um, their beers are good. Um, and they have like that up there. They have like Charles has always had a really good customer base. Maybe like it's kind of like like when I think about kickoff. You always had like these like loyal like regular customer base, and it kind of is like the same up there. Like everybody who comes in, they're coming in there to grab a case of beer, and they know Charles by name. Like it's kind of like that. He's got a good community up there. I don't know like what he's selling through the OCBO and stuff like that, but I think they're doing all right. They do. I think he does a little bit of contract brewing to fill his tank space and stuff like that, and but that's kind of the name of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. Who's your favorite sort of new up and coming brewer?
Hmm. New and up and coming. Yeah, there's both those guys that I mentioned earlier there. Like I know they've been around for a bit now, but like yeah, both I was happy with the farm league stuff, and I was happy with the Black Bellows stuff. Both making some really good beers, and particularly their lagers were really nice that I had. And trying to think where else I've been recently. Yeah, still don't get out a whole lot.
That's
How about
yeah,
you? How about you? Is there anything you've had recently that you found?
I definitely do not get out a lot right now.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to I've got Kelsey from Flexon in 2 weeks' time. I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
Yeah, really cool.
yeah. So and I'm looking forward to I haven't stopped in yet, but Sparrow, the roaster in Cambridge, above Cambridge, they're
Yep.
finally getting the brewery up and running.
Oh, really? Okay, that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So
Really neat. Yeah. I got to get around to more of the Cambridge breweries. It's been a while. Other than getting to farm leagues every week, went there for a concert.
yeah,
Yeah.
they were doing quite a few of those.
Yeah, they get some pretty good bands coming through too.
Yeah, that they did. Dave, thank you for taking time out of your schedule and sharing your stories with us this evening. We appreciate
Yeah,
you giving us that gift.
it's always a pleasure to be here.